11th chapter of the book of 1 Corinthians, the Apostle Paul instructed the Corinthian church concerning the Lord's Supper. He said in verse 24, "And when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, 'Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me.' And in the same manner he also took the cup after supper, saying, 'This cup is the new covenant in my blood. This do as often as you drink it in remembrance of me.'" At least twice here he referred to doing something in remembrance of the Lord. And what he was talking about, of course, was partaking of the bread and the fruit of the vine. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 26, and in verse 26, "And as they were eating, Jesus took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to the disciples and said, 'Take, eat, this is my body.' Then he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, 'Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the new covenant, which is shed for many for the remission of sins.'" So at least as we partake of the bread and the fruit of the vine, we think about the body of Jesus and we think about the blood of Christ that was shed for us for the forgiveness of our sins. Another thing that we can and should think about, not just when we take of the Lord's Supper, but often, is in Romans chapter 5 and verse 8. There the Apostle Paul said, "But God demonstrated his own love toward us, in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." So the thing that he did for us was in order to make us free from that sin. In Isaiah chapter 53, the writer there says, "Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. He has put him to grief when you make his soul an offering for sin." And the Hebrew writer also reminds us of something that we should remember as we partake of the Lord's Supper. He said in Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 8 beginning, "But we see Jesus, who was made a little lower than the angels, for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he, by the grace of God, might taste death for everyone." And the Apostle Paul in Ephesians, the 5th chapter, another thing that he reminds us of, he said, "Therefore be imitators of God as dear children, and walk in love as Christ also has loved us and given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet-smelling aroma." So these are some of the things that we need to think about as we partake of the Lord's Supper. We do this every first day of the week, and it is an important part of our worship and our service unto the Lord. So let's think about these things as we partake this morning.